Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. Well, this week we're looking at the beginning of sin. We've been looking at Genesis and following along through the beginning of creation, the beginning of us as God made human beings. And then when we come to the third chapter of Genesis, after seeing human beings created in such a good manner and put in such a great place to live, we see the beginning of sin. What in the world is sin, and why in the world do we do it? Why do we do the wrong thing when we should do the right thing, even when we know the right thing to do? Why is it that we can even desire to do the right thing and still not do it? It tells us that there is something in us that we are battling, something in us that is a drive that it is a drive that becomes wild, a drive that seems to have lost course, and instead of leading us to goodness and to a connection with each other and God in a way that can build up and strengthen life, it begins to tear it down. And we wonder why. Where does this come from? How does God create us good? Because everything in the first chapter of Genesis, it says God created good. It was good to look at. It was good the way that it functioned. We were looked at amongst all of the things in creation, and God evaluated it all, and he said, this is very good. So how does it get so bad? You know, one time I had a dog that was, a great family dog. Got along well with the kids, played well with them and everything. He lived in the house with us. We took care of him, fed him well, all those kind of things. But that dog would just, every time you turn around, run away from home. You could be out in the yard playing with it, and he would get out of reach to a certain point, and something would take over. It was like this inner need to run, to get out on his own, to go his own way, and off he would go. I tell you could stand there screaming at that dog, and he would not come back. I chased him down, wandered all over town looking for him various times, and I'll never forget the times whenever I located him, and he was doing whatever he was doing, and I call out to him. He'd look at me, and his first look at me, his eyes were wild. I mean, he could have just as easily been a wild animal as our family friend and pet. No, he looked at us like he was gone and had no idea who we were. You call him again, and when he recognized our voice and he heard us calling to him, and that recognition burst into his mind, his whole face would change. His eyes would shift, and he would become soft and tender in his look, and he would come running over to us, ready to go home. Somehow sin affects us in that same kind of way. We go wild. We turn rogue. We run off looking for our own way, for our own answers, for our own hope, and for our own strength. We want to be self-made and self-directed. We want to make sure that we have our destiny in our own hands because we've lost trust and confidence. That's what happened with Adam and Eve. They lost their confidence and trust that God had their best interest fully in hand, and that he had created them in a love that was so perfect that they could trust him and rely on him in everything. They had been told not to eat off of one single tree. And the next thing you know, once there were a few questions thrown into their minds by the serpent, who was actually Satan in disguise, they began to question God. They began to question whether God had their best interests in mind, whether God truly loved them, whether God was really who he said he was, whether they could rely on him. And that drive became an itch that had to be scratched. They had to try that fruit out on that tree. It looked like good food. And if it would make them wise, maybe God was just holding out on them this one little thing. Maybe it was God who was being tricky. And off they ran. What makes us do that is the thing that we're going to wrestle with all this week long, to try to understand how the good things that God has created us in, the drives that are within our natural makeup, how they can lead us to good things or to very bad things. How we can either choose God or choose our own way, a way that so routinely leads to destruction. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.